Candace Owen had interviewed Nick Fuentes. And in that interview, it's a long interview, but I only took a small clip of that interview. I want you to listen very carefully to what Nick Fuentes is saying.
I think it's more nature than people would like to believe. There's this classic tension of, is it nature, is it nurture, is it cultural, or is it intrinsic, is it racial? And I've always been on the latter side of this among conservatives. Conservatives like to say it's all culture. Black America is the way it is because of hip hop music and the Great Society and that kind of stuff. And I think the uncomfortable reality is a big part of it is intrinsic. One of the big arguments against the abolition of slavery in the 1860s is that when Europeans colonized Africa, they hadn't discovered the wheel. There's no two-story buildings. There's no writing. There's no written language. Missionaries had to go to Africa in the last century and invent it for the African people because there's no recorded history. They didn't have writing.
So Egypt is not in Africa?
Well, Egypt is a different race. The Egyptians were not black.
Okay, but you said when they went to Africa.
When we think of pyramids, our minds immediately journey to Egypt. The towering Giza Plateau, with its majestic stone structures, has long captured the world's fascination. But what if we told you that Egypt didn't build the first pyramids? Long before the sands of the Sahara surrounded the grand monuments of the pharaohs, a lesser-known civilization to the south built pyramids that have stood for millennia. Today, these mysterious structures quietly guard their ancient secrets. This is the story of Meroe, an ancient city in the heart of modern-day Sudan, where the first man-made pyramids may have risen and where we begin to unravel a mystery that challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient history. Let us set the scene. We are not in Egypt, but in the vast expanse of the Sudanese desert. Here, nestled in a stark, arid landscape, lie over 200 pyramids, concentrated in a city that once rivaled the grandeur of any ancient Egyptian metropolis. This city is Meroe, the capital of the powerful kingdom of Cush, a civilization that flourished for nearly 1,000 years. But Meroe's legacy is far more than a simple footnote in Egyptian history. It's a place where the lines between myth, architecture, and human achievement blur into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of antiquity. Our modern awareness of Meroe began in the 19th century, when European explorers ventured into the Sudanese desert. In 1821, they uncovered these stunning pyramids, which had been hidden for centuries beneath the sands. The explorers found a cluster of pyramids, some grand and towering, others smaller and more modest, yet all steeply angled with narrow bases, distinctly different from the broad, sloping forms of Egyptian pyramids. Theory suggests that Meroe may have been the true originator of pyramid building. Let's consider this possibility. Recent archaeological evidence has revealed older, smaller pyramid-like structures in Sudan, dating as far back as the 8th century BCE, long before the construction of Egypt's famous monuments. These burial mounds, known as tumuli, could have evolved into the grand pyramids we see at Meroe today. Could it be that Egypt's most iconic structures were influenced by the Kushites, rather than the other way around? It's a theory that challenges the traditional narrative of history, suggesting that Meroe's civilization may have pioneered innovations long before their Egyptian neighbors. As we dig deeper into the sands of history, the mysteries surrounding Meroe's pyramids only grow. Could the origins of pyramid building lie not in Egypt, but in this forgotten kingdom to the south? Meroe was more than just a city of pyramids. It was a thriving center of industry and trade, with remarkable advancements that rivaled many other ancient civilizations. One of Meroe's most significant achievements was its mastery of ironworking. Scattered across the landscape, archaeologists have uncovered iron furnaces, a testament to a sophisticated industry that flourished long before many other ancient civilizations had harnessed such technology. This begs the question, how did the kingdom of Cush develop these advanced techniques? Some believe that the iron was used to forge weapons, providing the Kushite warriors with a formidable edge in battle. Others argue that Meroe's iron was used for agricultural tools, enabling the cultivation of vast swathes of fertile land along the Nile, and allowing the kingdom to sustain its growing population. But perhaps the most intriguing theory suggests that Meroe's iron products were traded far and wide, reaching the Mediterranean and perhaps even India, indicating that this kingdom played a central role in the ancient global economy. Equally fascinating is Meroe's sophisticated water management system. Archaeologists have discovered an elaborate network of reservoirs and dams that allowed the people of Meroe to control the seasonal floodwaters of the Nile, ensuring a stable supply of water for agriculture. This level of engineering sophistication was far ahead of its time, surpassing even some of the water management techniques used in Egypt. Could it be that Meroe, not Egypt, held the key to ancient water engineering? And how much of this knowledge was passed down, or lost, over the centuries?
Tahaka, the Black Pharaoh. The Bible mentions that the nations of the world are descended from one of Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Cush, Egypt, and Put, sons of Ham, settled in Africa. During the 25th dynasty, Cush became pharaoh and ruled Egypt and South Africa. Cushite pharaoh, named Taharka, helped the kingdom of Judah and King Hezekiah fight the Assyrians in order to avoid defeat. Cush is mentioned 54 times in the Bible. This is a nation who lived in ancient Egypt, but very little is known about them in the Bible, so our understanding of them is murky. Cushites is mentioned in the Bible as a fascinating group. Their role and presence throughout the scriptures provide important insights into the history of the ancient Middle East and of the Israelites in particular. The land of Cush and Cushites are described in the Bible for the most part as warriors and rich, and their description is positive. And here are some of them that are important to know. In the book of Genesis, Cush is the father of Nimrod. In the book of 2 Samuel, a Cushite man is one of David's heroes and brings him the news of Absalom's death. In the book of Jeremiah, the king's servant, the eunuch who saves Jeremiah from death in the pit, is also identified as a Cushite. In the book of 2 Kings, Taharka, the king of Cush, known as a pharaoh from the 25th dynasty, who was an ally of Hezekiah, king of Judah, goes to war with Assyria, and saves Jerusalem and the kingdom of Judah.
As you can see with Nick Fuentes, he was saying before colonization, before Africa was colonized, they did not have language, they did not have speech, they did not have any tall buildings, they basically didn't have anything, they did not have writing. They was just out there in flat lands doing nothing. But based on the other videos that I showed you after, it showed you that what he was saying is not true, and how he's trying to separate Egypt from Africa by saying they're different people. I don't know what different people they are, but he's saying they are different people, but Egypt is on the continent of Africa. You can see what the Bible say about the kingdom of Cush. Sometimes you will see Cush spelled, depending on where you're looking at, they will spell Cush with a C, they would spell Cush with a K, or they would say Nubia or Ethiopia. With the Bible, they go between Ethiopia and Cush, but it's all the same, which is modern day Sudan. And based on the Bible, which is factual information, and it also shows you how great God is, because he not only shows you in the Bible, there's actually physical history that we can see outside of the Bible about the kingdom of Cush, how powerful that kingdom was. When you look in the Bible and you look at 2 Kings 19:9 and Isaiah 37, it speaks about the I can't pronounce this name good, but I put it somewhere. He is the king of Assyrian, and he's getting ready to overthrow King Hezekiah, which is the king of Judah. Hezekiah reaches out to the king of Cush, which is also the king of Egypt. This is the time of the Black Pharaohs, which is the 25th dynasty. This is something they don't talk about. This is something they don't want people to know about, because it would debunk everything that Fuentes said. And every person, whether they black, white, whatever color, if they believe the same thing that Nick Fuentes said. And so the king of Cush went to help King Hezekiah fight against the Assyrian, and that's King Taharka. And then you also may see his name spelled or pronounced Taharka. I put both spellings up there. When he went to help King Hezekiah of Judah with the Assyrian. This is in the Bible. I have always said from day one, even before there was ever an internet, that I believe the Bible, every word in the Bible is true from the beginning to the end. And then when you look at the history that you do have about the Black pharaohs in Egypt during the 25th dynasty, you will see his name there. You will see that these are Black pharaohs, Black kings that took over Cush. So they're now have land in Cush as well as in Egypt that they're ruling. The Bible itself stated how powerful the kingdom of Cush was, how powerful the people of Cushite was. And it's have their names in the Bible over 20 times that God is talking about these people. The Cushite, if you want to say Ethiopian, the Cushites, they have always been part of God's redemption plan. They have always had a language, and you have to look at, they also started building tombs way before Egypt, based on what the archaeologists were saying, that they started building pyramids before Egypt started building pyramids. They was also doing different building projects in Cush, which is on one side of Egypt. I'm sorry, which is on one side of the Nile River, and then also in Egypt itself, which is on the other side. So they was ruling both sides of the Nile River during this time, the 25th dynasty. And so, where is, I'm always watching programs about Egypt, but they never wants to talk about the 25th dynasty. Because if they do talk about the 25th dynasty, two things are going to have to happen. They're going to have to acknowledge that there were black, powerful kings and pharaohs in Egypt, the Cushites, and they will also have to acknowledge God do exist, because God mentioned this king, Tahaka, in the Bible. But if you notice, every time you watch these programs, they always say that the pyramids was built by aliens. And as long as they keep saying that, they don't want to acknowledge the wisdom that these people had that was building these pyramids in Cush, in the Cushite territory, as well as in Egypt. The different building products, the different building um, things they were doing in these areas. And another thing Nick Fuentes said in that video is that the people in Africa did not have language. Not only did they have vocal language, they also had written language, which was the Meltrit script that they wrote. Those, what they was using back then, they cannot decipher it now. And you have to think about, to be so powerful that you overthrow the kingdom of Egypt, to be so powerful that you're going to fight. I think it was like over 1 million soldiers they had going to fight, help King Hezekiah with the Assyrian. They have to be smart. They have to be intelligent. They have to read. They have to know how they need to know mathematics. They also need to know architects, or how to build the building, how to cut the bricks, how to do all that. But people do not want to acknowledge what what Black people did in Africa. And their education, they had books, well, not books, but they had writing, they had educational system. You see everything they were saying in those other videos that they was doing, and they was outdoing Egypt at the time. But once again, like Nick Fuentes said, Egypt is not a part of Africa. Egypt is different. They smart over there in Egypt, but he's diminishing the knowledge that they had in Africa. These Black people that God talked about in the Bible. They want to diminish all that and dismiss all that. And then also, when you look at Zimbabwe have this great wall. Right now they're calling it the Great Ruins, because the walls was destroyed. But they had these great walls that they built for their cities. Like every cities, they had forts, they had walls to protect them from any invaders. They built these great walls, and they did it without mortar. They did it, they just bricks on bricks on bricks. They didn't use anything in between to seal them. Like I said, every time you watch these documentaries about these other countries, they always talk about how great they are at building, but they never want to come and talk about how great Africans were at building, the knowledge they had, the mathematics they had, the skills they needed to be able to do the things they was doing. They don't want to talk about it because they always want to make Africa seem like it's ignorant. They always want to make Black people seem like they're ignorant. Then there's the city of Benin, which is in Nigeria. The city of Benin had the largest wall construction, which was even larger than the Great Wall of China, that they had a fortress built around their city.
the Wall of Benin, and it was like the world's largest structure.
It's the Guinness Book of World Records, world's largest man-made structure by length.
And it was in Nigeria. It was the capital city, but they made interconnecting walls that stretched over 10,000 miles. It was 10,000 miles worth of walls that were like interconnected, and it was all man-made, but the British destroyed it in 1897
Wow.
when they were colonizing it. But that's enough wall to circle the United States 3 times.
It says 4 times longer than the Great Wall of China.
How have I never heard of that?
That's what I'm saying. Even the people of Nigeria, like now, they don't even know about it. So like people are trying to like discover more about it to teach them of their ancient culture and stuff.
They started in 800 AD.
Okay, yeah,
and continued until 1460 AD.
yeah. They said it took 150 million man hours to build. 150 million man hours.
And very little remains today. How is that possible?
Because the British destroyed it.
All of it.
Imperialism.
Yeah. Is that not insane?
That's crazy.
Yeah, never heard of it before.
But how many people speak about that? They don't. Once again, because if they told the truth about Africa, if they told the truth about God, it would dispel all these rumors or all these lies that has been told generation after generation after generation about Africa being dumb, about Africa, these people don't have anything. They wouldn't be nothing without colonization. No, they was everything before colonization. Because what people would need to realize when it comes to slavery, the first people who enslaved Africans was the Arabics. They're the first one that enslaved Africa. And then it was the colonization by the European. When you're putting people enslaved, you have to first strip away their language. You have to first strip away their writing. You take all that away. You strip their identity. You don't teach them about the greatness of their people. You teach them your people wasn't anything. That's why we have you slave. This is what God wanted. Even though we know that God did not want his people to be slaves. So when you look at Psalm 68:31 in the Bible, you would see that it's giving you a prophecy about Cushite people, that they're going to turn towards God. They're going to reach out to God and make him their God. So when you sit there and make it seem like black people was just so ignorant sitting around, like I said, just imagine if they was never put into slavery by the Arabs and the Arab state out of Africa. Imagine what Africa would be today if they was never colonized and their people was never stripped from the land and made into slave. Imagine how far and powerful the continent of Africa would be. But they didn't want that. Africa was surviving without the British even knowing about Africa. Before British people, before Europeans ever set foot in the continent of Africa, they was thriving. It has nothing to do with racism or anything like that. It's about the ignorance of people when it comes to what really happened in Africa, how they defeated Africa. It wasn't the ignorance of African people that destroyed the continent of Africa. It was everyone that came in. They tore down their structures, like you see those pyramids, the pyramids that the Cushites built. You see, they was destroyed because they was trying to take away their identity. They destroyed the walls. They destroyed the cities. They took everything. They destroyed their language. And what they didn't destroy, they stole and they took back to Britain. So when all this has happened to you as a people, and then when you get to a whole nother country, a whole nother location, they don't even want you to read in their language. They don't want you to have knowledge because they know the type of knowledge that your ancestors had. And they don't want that information to get out. So that's why they try to keep it away. And that's why I tell people, read your Bible, read and study your Bible. When I made a video saying that Black history is within the Bible of who you really are. You're waiting for everyone else to tell you who you are when God has already told you who you are. So my question, are you going to believe God or are you going to believe the world? And when it comes to this is just me speaking. When it comes to standing for standing with Israel, like I said, there's evil, good, and evil people everywhere. I stand I stand up for Israel because of what's in the Bible. God put his name on Jerusalem. When you look at the story with Hezekiah, he is the king of Judah. Judah is where Jesus came from because God made a promise to David, King David. And Jesus came out of the line of Judah. King Takasha, he came there to help defend Jerusalem against the Assyrians. And so when you look at what's going on today, it's basically the same. We're not physically helping Israel. We're praying to God for protection of Israel because God's name is on Jerusalem. And and I understand all this political stuff they're talking about. I have faith in God. I have faith in Jesus. I believe my Bible is real and true. And it has been proven time and time that the Bible is real and true. Even though people try to say, no, it's not real, no, it's not true, they always try to debunk the Bible. It's not this, it's not that. They want to call it the white man religion when they see what is taking place and where it's taking place at and the people that God is talking about. Like I said, all this was going on in Africa before Europeans ever stepped foot in Africa. So what do it look like for them to make a religion that's focused around people they don't like? What would make them create a religion where the Bible is saying how powerful, how strong, how rich the Cushites are? Why would they create a book that's going to show them helping God's people? Why would they create a book like that where they're not even in the story? That don't make sense. So for everyone who keeps saying it's a white Jesus, it's a white God, it's a white man religion, pick up the Bible, read it, and study it for yourself and stop listening to the world to tell you about God when God is the one that created the world and everyone in it. So how are we as creation going to know more than the creator? This is the type of stuff we have to start thinking about. God put his name on Jerusalem. God said Jerusalem is his. And how I see it, the only people that's actually defending Jerusalem is Israel. The actual people that's actually defending the Christians and the other people in that area is Israel. The people that wants to kill these people and destroy Jerusalem and take over Jerusalem are radical Muslim. When you go back to Africa, the people that are killing the Africans are radical Muslim. Radical Islamic people are killing Christian, God's people. And for me to not stand with, if I'm reading the Bible and I see what's going on in the Bible, I'm not going to sit here because of political reasons, because of what people are doing behind closed doors. When God tells me one thing, who is my father? Jesus is my king. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to support and pray for Israel. It's not saying that I agree with every single thing they do. And that's what people need to understand. Just because you say, I'm doing it because it's in the Bible. God know more than I do. We're supposed to walk by faith, not by sight. So I can't be so focused on what's going on that I discount what God is saying. He know more than I do.